What's up guys, it's Zach Heidi, and today I'm really excited to be talking about Orange Tree's brand new VST, their Banjo. If you've been on this channel, you'll see that I've done a lot of Orange Tree demos in the past. They're a great company and a really good group of people. I've used a ton of their VSTs on many of my projects, including their upright bass. I use their harp all the time, their vibes are phenomenal. But I've been in the market for a Banjo VST for a really long time, so when they announced this, I was very, very excited. It has surpassed my expectations and I'm really excited to show it off. But before we get into the technicalities of it, I'm actually gonna play an audio demo I wrote for them called And the Wagon Rolls On. It's kind of like a medium tempo, country groove kind of thing, you'll get the idea. It's mostly featuring one of their snapshots. It's the Bella Flex snapshot, which has a really nice crisp kind of banjo sound. And it also has a couple of extra techniques beyond just the basic patch that you'll hear. You can skip ahead if you've already heard this or you just don't wanna listen to my music. I'll understand, I'll be a little sad. But for now, let's play the cue and then let's talk about the banjo. Okay, so now that you've heard this cue, let's actually get into the user interface and talk about some of the things that this does. Here's the primary interface. If you're familiar with their Evolution series, you'll see that this is almost identical to their other instruments that they have in this library, but let's just talk about it in case you're not. The Bella Flex snapshot is actually my personal favorite in their library, so I'm gonna be using that for all these audio demos that we're talking about. Basically, we have all the articulations. The only one that's actually mapped right now is the sustain patch. Here's the sustain patch when I have the pedal depressed, so you're gonna hear no hammer-ons, nothing like that, no trying to stay on the same string. It's gonna play like a keyboard. Now, when I let go of the pedal, it's gonna operate much more like a banjo would. So it's gonna try and do hammer-ons when it can, it's gonna keep things on one string, and just generally sound a lot more idiomatic. It's very good. Their programming is always exceptional with this stuff. Now, in terms of composing, if you wanted to adjust those things in the MIDI roll, what you could simply do is have overlapped notes which would operate for the kind of hammer-ons wherever it can. And then when you want things to be articulated kind of separately and distinctly, just make sure that there's no overlap between the two notes. That's what I did for my demo, it worked great. Now there's other ways that you can map these articulations. One way being you could do a sustain pedal. You could also use a key switch, which is my personal favorite way to do it. You just simply drag this to select which key switch you want it to be. Now by default, this is gonna be as long as I'm pressing the key, it's active. When I let go, it's not. So here's the mutes when I'm pressing this key switch. And when I let go, it moves back to the sustain. If you wanted it to latch, you would pick latching key switch, in which case you press it once, let go, and it's active. I don't like that way as much actually because I find that most of the time I'm playing sustains and I just want a couple little articulations here and there. So I tend to do key switches. You could also map to CC values if you wanted to. So let's say you were using a mod wheel and you want it to be active for a certain range of that mod wheel, you could use CC1 for that. So I'm gonna play a couple of the other articulations so you can hear them. That was sustained, you heard a little bit of mute. Here is harmonics. We have grace notes up and down. Very subtle. We have buzz trill, which is one that I really like. Bam! I really like that sound. We have whole step slide in. You can really kind of get all that finesse that you would have from a real performance. Now we also have some slides that are based on the actual tempo that you have in your track. I actually didn't use these for the demo, but I could see their uses. Basically, it would just kind of latch to the tempo that you've got set. Just gonna go ba-da-dum. It's gonna match to whatever our tempo is. We could do that for 16ths if we wanted to. And you could do that for quarters and the other values as well. We've got the release slide, which I did use. I love that. It's active only when you release the actual note. We've got octaves, which I use quite a bit. And I love that it actually still kind of maintains the idiomatic sound. Really good. Power chords, which is kind of a nice touch. Save you a little bit of programming time. So those are the basic articulations. Again, primarily using the sustains, but kind of using the rest of them for color and effects. The next category we've got is strums, which are kind of pre-made loops for strumming, save you a little bit of programming time. So this is going to be activated when you press the actual key switch that's assigned. So here it says C1. If I press C1, I'm getting a strum of whatever I had played previously. So if I played a C major chord, it's breaking that up. Now you could select different chord settings inside of the chords menu. I typically don't do that. I usually just assign the chord as I play it and then immediately press the key switch like this. Now if you go to any key switch, you're gonna see an initialized preset. So you could technically make your own. The way you do that is by going in here, selecting the articulation you want. So sustain, selecting which string you'd like it to be active on. But truthfully, I don't use this too much because there's so many presets in here already that I find I'm usually getting what I'm looking for. So for example, we could just assign, let's pick this one to be D1. So now when we do D1, we're gonna get this new strum. And there's a ton in here, so you can play around, you can add them in, program them as you like, and have them saved into your own personal snapshot. Now inside the tone, we have an effects rack, and those effects racks are pretty much what's making the different snapshots. So every snapshot is basically a different tweaking of these effects to kind of create a new kind of sound. Their in-the-box compressor is really good, actually, and their built-in reverb also is really good. You'll hear some of these effects as we go through the different snapshots, which I'll do in a second. And the last menu is for mostly technical stuff, the setup menu. We can pick things like the stereo width, which is really useful. We could choose how much we want of the actual signal. I usually keep it at enhanced. I think it sounds better that way. We could do double tracking, quadruple track, and triple. That's really useful. So here's our quadruple tracked banjo. And we can control different elements like the humanization of that too. Pick noise. I always love a good mountain pick noise. We can change the fretting position, so we can default it to be a little bit higher or lower on the banjo if we want it to be. Have it lean towards the open strings if we want it to. The dynamic curve is really useful. If you have a keyboard like mine that tends to lean heavy, it's nice to kind of make this bias towards soft. And I really find that the quiet sounds in the banjo sound the best. If we really bias this soft, I'll see if I can really accent that. You hear the difference versus this? Yeah, it really makes a difference when you actually have kind of the light strumming be much quieter. You can have upper and lower limits for the velocities, which is also really useful. Change capo positionings, alternate tunings if you want to. That's kind of nice. You could get a low drop C. Really nice color, and lots of other kind of parameters, including choosing how much you want that hammer-on range to be, if you want it to be a wider range so it doesn't activate quite as much. Forgot to mention also, there's a really nice vibrato in this patch too, so if I play a note here, it kind of gets a little bit exaggerated when it gets in the top register, so I don't use it that much here. That's a little bit much, but just a subtle thing. You know, and banjo typically doesn't really do that kind of a vibrato thing. I don't think it's very idiomatic to the instrument, but it's kind of a nice color if you use in very subtle touches. Okay, and the last thing I want to do is just play through a couple of their snapshots so you can hear what they sound like. You've been hearing Bella in the Bottle, which is the Bella Flex sound. Let's go through a couple other ones. So let's try Apple Crisp and see what that sounds like. Kind of pinched and bright, so if you want that to really poke through, I think this would be a good one. All right, let's try Bright Future. This is nice. I can tell this one's got a bit more of a stereo image to it. Really good. Okay, let's try Getting Picky. That is definitely pickier. Yeah. Ooh, in the low register, you can really hear that. Let's try maybe a bit more like an ambient one. No, let's try Snow Day. See, I think that one uses harmonics. Yeah. Okay, so now some of the effects are actually kicking in. I think there's a delay in here, probably a little reverb. So if you want different effects and you want to get inspired, try different things, you could do that too. Let's try one more. Let's do Swamp Thing. Let's see what that sounds like. Ooh, cool. All right, so I think this, all right, so it's still a little bit stereo, but obviously we're working with a really different kind of sound. I think maybe just the standard guitar signal. They've done some effects here that sound really cool. And they're all just so much fun to play. That's what I love about Orange Tree stuff, especially this banjo. It's just so playable. Like I can just... I'm not really a programming guy. I don't love programming too much. And so Orange Tree always just kicks butt with that. And it's so much fun to play their instruments. With all that said, I highly recommend this banjo. I can tell you for certain that I'm gonna be using it on other tracks. It's so much fun to play, really customizable. I love the way they laid out the key switching. And any issue that came up while I was composing, I was able to fix very easily and very readily, either just by tweaking things in the piano roll, re-signing articulations, or just going in the setup and adjusting things like the velocity. The Orange Tree Banjo has Zach's 5-star seal of approval. Highly recommend it. Huge thanks again to Orange Tree for sending this to me. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. I'm Zach Heidi, and I'll see you in the next video.